Hi class, I'm back, and now we're going to take a look at Chapter 9, which is sharing photos and images, and Chapter 10, which talks about social networks. And just like videos, there's lots of benefits to be gained from sharing photos online for businesses, or other images for that matter. They can evoke emotions for one thing, and at the same time be explanatory in nature. In marketing, we talk about push and pull techniques. And a pull technique is something that literally pulls you to the site for some reason, and then maybe you're enamored with the site. Facebook basically pulls people to their site because of its social efficacy, and then it pushes them out from there to different products by pop-up ads or discussions or whatever. And images can do the same thing. They can pull you to a website if they're off-site, or they can push you to another website because of their specific character and nature. And in that regard, they're like a poster, and they can be reasonably set up, costs aside, cheap to monitor and update on a regular basis. So what do we do to what are ways that we can market with photo sharing sites? Well, one of the first things that you want to be concerned about before you get into this and you start to select your material is to assess and determine the particular target market that you think the photos would resonate with. And in that regard, you'd want to make sure the images are a fit with what your intended outcome is with the target market, and again, who that target market actually is. So you want to have tags that are exciting and would connect with the intended target market. And if you're using images from other sources that don't belong to you, then you want to be sure to acquire permission from people in the photos. I have, at the last item in the list, posted a site that has the top 10 photo sharing sites. But the point of that is that different sites offer different values, and you want to know what the site actually gives you as far as reaching your ultimate objectives for why you're using this marketing media to begin with. And that goes back again to who's your target market, what are these photos, who are they intended to resonate with, and then you want to think about what this implies is connecting or putting them into the appropriate media venue that would most benefit you. And you want to give that some thought, because obviously it's not just a matter of directly connecting, but there's a maintenance cost and the time that has to go into it over time to maintain these. So social networks, we're all familiar with social networks now, and different people engage in them in different ways and to different degrees. I admittedly don't that much, because I feel I don't have my business anymore, so I don't have a promotional need in that respect. And if I did, I could see the application of sites like Twitter. I've never been a real fan, admittedly, of Facebook, probably because I know what their business model is. But coupled with that, I don't think my life is particularly interesting anymore, and while I'm not a curmudgeon, I'm not really interested in other people's lives that much as well, with the exception probably of my daughter and her family. I've met enough celebrities in my life that I'm not at all enamored or following anybody else's reality. But that's not the case in the media, and there are lots and lots of people that use it, and from a business perspective, it's particularly important to understand and to engage with on a number of different levels. So we have sites like Facebook and Twitter, and for any business that wants to promote itself through different venues and find and communicate with prospective target markets, they are a valuable prospect. I listen to and watch CNBC quite regularly, and there was and I can't even remember it to give you an estimate, but the fundamental message was in a recent spot that I watched was that in the very near future, virtually all significant hiring will be done over the web, that the algorithms are very accurate about finding talent, and equally important, obviously, in finding prospective customers. They're very effective at building brand awareness, but I think sites like Facebook, it has been demonstrated that they're less effective at building brand awareness as they are at reinforcing brand loyalty. And so that being the case, they do have some value in finding new customers in some respects, but they're probably more helpful in gauging the environment and the discussion points that are ongoing with your most loyal customers. And again, you read these suggestions in all your marketing books over and over again when it comes to formulating a promotional campaign. And if you're going to use social networks, before you ever get into it, you want to decide what are your goals and objectives that you want to achieve. And goals are broad, and objectives are what I tell my students. Good objectives are always qualified. So one is general, and it's sort of a higher, broader level. Then objectives start to get more specific. So the specificity that you'd want to take a look at around social networks is, am I trying to get new customers? Am I just building or expanding on brand awareness? Am I wanting to display new products? Whatever. Am I trying to gauge, participate in a conversation or initiate a conversation so that I can get ideas from existing customers? Those are all very different objectives, and so you want to be specific because different initiatives produce different results. So as I noted in the previous slide, I believe, you want to pick the particular media or venue that you think is most applicable in achieving your stated goals and objectives. And these different sites have different values and different applications. So if it's a business to consumer marketing, certainly Facebook would potentially have a lot of value depending on how you manage your site. And again, you want to understand going into this that these things aren't free unless you don't value your time, because it usually takes somebody's time. And if it's yours, then typically your time is worth something. And if you're delegating it to an employee to maintain, they have to have the knowledge, and they're using up time that you're probably paying them for as well. And beyond that, these things have to be updated frequently in order to retain interest. And so depending on your product or your service, that is going to fluctuate considerably between products and between companies. So you want to think of it and have a feel for it before you ever get this process going. I mentioned a couple of slides back a minute or two ago that there's two basic ways that we utilize these sites for. One is there's two different strategies, that we use around these sites, depending on what they're intended to do. If they are a showcase for your products, explaining them in some way or another, or you have an online catalog, or you have a service that is consulting, let's say, in nature, then you may have off-site strategies that will push customers to your site. So you state that URL on your business cards or whatever. You have it in email signatures, so on and so forth. And then to pull customers to the site, you might do things like run contests or offer coupons or discounts on an ongoing basis that would cause people to check it regularly. Facebook ads can be beneficial for both small businesses and large businesses alike, and they can engage your groups of loyal customers for either a small company or a large company. In either case, you can use Facebook to build customer loyalty and to keep your hand on the pulse of what the issues are with your customers around your products and your brand. LinkedIn is a very good site for business-to-business marketing. Again, I think it's perceived that one of the things it will do over time is replace maybe even Monster as a place to find prospective employees. I know my son-in-law has gotten calls from people looking for employees that have his particular qualifications and experience, and he hasn't or wasn't aggressively soliciting inquiries for other jobs. So it's all about, on the other hand though, how you utilize that site and what again your intention is, whether you want to find or be found. And both of those things affect very much how you structure your personal information. If you're using it to find prospective customers, there are some good search tools that allow you to find businesses and representatives of those businesses that might have an interest in your product. And of course, if that's true, the reverse of it is also true, that depending on how you select your words, your search words, keywords, you can improve the probability that they'll find you as well. Beyond that, there are some tricks that you can employ that will improve on LinkedIn your chance of being found and being engaged with. So what I tell students, and this applies to these first two items, that consumers, and it's true for employers as well, consumers buy attributes, do not buy attributes, they buy benefits. And so it's one thing to say I'm a hard worker, but that's sort of a so what? Who's going to say I'm lazy and good for nothing? So you want to note not just the attributes, but the benefits that come with that. So you want a catchy headline, something that's going to engage somebody, as well as the subsequent content. When you're talking about a category, be careful. Just don't call yourself a contractor, because that's fairly broad and identifies tons of other people that are in the same category as you. If you're a doctor, you know you're almost always a specialist. So be thinking about that knowledge that makes you particularly distinct. This number 4 item is very similar to what I just said. You know, if you merely say, I'm a mechanic, then you and a lot of other people, what they really want to know is what you can do for them. So if you say I'm a good worker and a good salesperson, it's, you know, I can increase your sales by 50% within the first 6 months. Those are objectives that are quantified, and that's what people are really interested in. So you want to encourage people to contact you, and if you bait them properly, and I say that in a constructive way, you'll get a lot more contacts. So again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think social networks are going to become more and more important to businesses and individuals, depending on their particular objectives that go with it. Be sure to pay attention in selecting the right social network that is the best fit for what your goals and objectives are, and how they can help you interact or connect with your target markets.